Hello, and welcome to class. And happy St. Patrick's Day for those of you watching this on Monday, March 17th. This is our special holiday edition that we put together once a year for St. Patrick's Day, and you can see that our colors are going to be green. We're going to be talking about the Week 3 assignments, which is your first paper that you're going to be writing for this week. So I thought it would be useful to try to get this out ahead of time and give you a little advance warning and information about what we're going to be dealing with in that paper. So, as usual, we always want to start from the home page, take a look at your announcements to see if there's anything been posted since the last time you were in class. And then we're going to go to Week 3. Now in Week 3 we've got a discussion and a paper, and I would like to kind of look at these in a combined fashion because they could be you can use the research you're doing for the paper to support your discussion post. So let's take a look at the discussion post first. The topic is for you to choose an organization and explain how economic, social, political, technological, legal, cultural, political, and regulatory impacts the individual leadership abilities in the organization. Now, that's a mouthful, and I don't expect you to be able to cover all of those, so what we're going to be doing is looking at perhaps one or two of those issues and an effect on an organization. And then secondly, you need to include a leadership model that explains how a leader can respond to the external factors in the environment that impact an organization in the form of opportunities or threats. Okay, so what this means is you need to, number one, select an organization. You can use one, and I would highly suggest you use one that you've already done some research on for your paper. You're going to be providing some background about the particular organization and what the environmental impacts might be of that particular organization. I chose Guinness because Guinness beer happens to be a Irish company, and it's a product that some of us may be familiar with. And the idea would be here you choose an organization, doesn't have to be from Ireland, and you provide us with a little background concerning the history of the company, etc., where they're located. But then you're going to be dealing with explaining some of the external environmental factors that affect that particular company, and then how leadership is going to help them succeed in the challenges and opportunities that the current global environment presents it. So number 2, you're going to have to select a leadership theory, and here you can go to chapter number 8, which deals with leadership explicitly and mentions and introduces some of the leadership theories. And also at the end of chapter number 8 there are 4 pages full of references. As you might have noticed, a textbook isn't done in APA format specifically. It has footnotes that then refer to the end of the chapter that indicate where that information was coming from. So there's 4 pages full of references from journal articles and all kinds of information there. So you can go to the reference list and pull out some material there. And then finally, you're going to blend number 1, the organization that you've chosen, and number 2, the leadership theory that you've chosen, and then explain how that theory explains how leaders within the organization you're talking about, how they deal with the external environment. And here you're going to be as specific as you can. If the organization is dealing with political issues, then what leadership style is going to help them there. If the organization is dealing with social or cultural issues, what aspects of leadership are going to be working there. So the idea is in your discussion post that you'll kind of be covering these 3 areas, with hopefully the success being that you can find a leadership model that happens to fit the organizational environment that you're trying to explain. So the submission process is the normal one. You write it in Word, you review it, clean up any grammar, spelling, punctuation errors, revise it, submit through the Create thread for week number 3, and I'm looking for, again, probably around 800 words. A little more, a little less wouldn't hurt, but be sure that you're using the outside references. Okay, you're going to get dinged on your grading if you don't start using the outside references with your discussion posts. Then, looking at the paper now, and the reason that I think we want to look at these together is you can certainly use information that you have available to you in your paper research on your discussion post. You can use the same organizations, that's fine. You can use some of the same leadership theories, that's fine. So even though I want a good job on the discussion, this shouldn't be starting from scratch. This should be taking material that you've already gotten together for your week 3 paper. So here we're looking for a 20-page paper explaining the functions of management in a global organization. Analyze how leaders carry out those functions through effective communication, power, influence, motivation, and rewards. Describe how you see yourself exercising these functions in a modern global organization. You need to review the paper grading rubric. In that video that I put together, which is sitting in Start Here, I go through quite extensively the various aspects that should appear within your paper. For example, the introduction, the critical thinking, the creative thinking, the organization. So if you sped through that and didn't think about it because you weren't writing a paper, this is the time to go back and review that and make sure that you're very familiar with all those parts. As I've said before, you can stop the video, pause it at any point, and then print out what's on the screen using the Shift Print Screen button, and then you can download that into a Word document, and now you have a paper version or a static version of what's on the screen. So I think for some of you to work from an outline like that would be very useful. So first step is to review the paper grading rubric. Then, as you're actually getting into organizing your paper, you need to describe the various tools of leadership as presented here in the assignment. Communication is one of leadership's tools. Power is one of their tools. Influence, motivation, and rewards. And you need to look at how those would work in a global organization. Communication is obviously different when you're sitting in the same room with somebody as opposed to when people are in the other side of the world, 12 hours away by time zones. So these all become more complicated and much more interesting actually when we talk about working in a global organization. Use your academic journals, as I've mentioned several times, to support your ideas. On a 20-page paper, I would expect you're going to need at least a half a dozen, something like 6 to 10 journal articles to make it look like you've covered all your bases, that you've really explored the subject. And then you're going to explain how these ideas influence your thinking, the things that you've learned during this research process, how those influence your thinking about global management and leadership. What do you know at the end of the process that you didn't know at the beginning of the process? Now, how do you get started in your thinking? Review Chapter 3 in the management textbook. That's a chapter on global management, and it gives some examples of companies, global companies, and talks about the issues that they face in trying to manage worldwide operations. So that would give you a good starting point. The keys to success. Get started early. Save some time for revising and proofreading and editing. All the things that make your paper look like it was professionally done, those all take time. So you need to have the research and the preliminary draft done early. Use outside references. I think I've mentioned that enough. Refer to the theory. This is not a paper simply describing an organization. You're supposed to be combining theory with facts, with real world situation. So you need to explain the origin of the theory and how it's going to apply. Use specific organizations as illustrations of the theory in action. You can use from the textbook, or you can use some additional. Like I said, it's kind of up to you what you're interested in. But your paper must demonstrate your own analyses and your own thinking. So it's fine and you're expected to provide quotations from other work and to paraphrase other people's ideas. At this stage, you're not doing original research. You're basically reading what other people are writing and then combining that in a new way. So you need to show that you're actually thinking about it and coming up with creative ideas. And finally, don't freak out. This may seem like a huge task to undertake, but if you work in an organized fashion, ask me questions if you get stuck on it. I'm sure it'll turn out fine and it'll be a good learning experience for you. So, you know how to get in touch with me if you need to, and good luck in week number 3.